those cassettes. Gosh, I miss those times, man.
After the Soviets saw the development and use of gunships and attack helicopters by the United States Army during the Vietnam War, the Soviets were convinced of the advantages of armed helicopter ground support, and started development of the Mi-24, the famous Hind. This helicopter owed its lineage to the Mil-8, a dedicated troop transport. The Mi-24 would combine troop transport with ground attack, becoming a sort of flying infantry fighting vehicle. While I'm sure I don't need to tell you just how successful the Mi-24 was, the Soviets also wanted a dedicated anti-tank helicopter. This new helicopter would be designated the Mi-28, and would be a further development of the Mi-24. However, its intended battlefield role would shift away from troop transport and ground attack to dedicated anti-tank operations. The design work began in 1980, and the prototype first flew in 1982. While the Mi-28 performed well in the early trials, in 1984 however, the Soviet Air Force chose the more advanced Kamov Ka-50. One of the main reasons for this was the fact that the Mi-28 was not considered all-weather capable. Development of the aircraft did continue however, and in 1995, the Mi-28N was unveiled, with the N designation meaning night. Its main feature was a radar mounted in a round cover above the main rotor, similar to the American AH-64D Apache. It also had improved TOR vision and the naming device under the nose, including a TV camera and an FLIR, or forward-looking infrared system. Again, development was interrupted due to the collapse of the Soviet Union and inevitable funding problems. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, when the economy was doing pretty badly, the advantages of the Mi-28 showed themselves. The Mi-28N did have all-weather capability, but had a lower cost compared to the Kamovs, and it had a part similarity to the Mi-24, making it logical to acquire the Mi-28, both fiscally and logistically. The Mi-28N and Ka-50 now serve alongside each other in the Soviet Armed Forces. While the Mi-28 is considered the less capable stepbrother of the Kamov Ka-50, in War Thunder, it is certainly still a very powerful aircraft. The Mi-28N is a tech tree helicopter located in the 7th rank of the Soviet tech tree. It sits at a battle rating 10.7 for arcade, realistic and simulator battles. To unlock this helicopter, you will have to grind out 390,000 research points before purchasing the vehicle for a cost of 1,020,000 Silver Lions. Being a tech tree vehicle, this helicopter will come fully stock, and you'll have to upgrade all of its modifications to unlock the full potential of this aircraft. You'll have to put it in your lineup for the cost of 290,000 Silver Lions before purchasing the Expert in Ace qualifications. The Expert in Ace qualifications don't really do too much in helicopters, but regardless, it'll cost you 1,020,000 Silver Lions for the Expert qualification and 2,800 Golden Eagles for the Ace qualification. In terms of repair costs, for a helicopter is actually pretty cheap. In realistic battles, it'll set you back 5,085 Silver Lions to fully repair this helicopter. Going on to the rewards, and in realistic battles, playing with a premium account, you can expect an RP modifier of 464% and a Silver Lion modifier of 285%. In terms of customization, there are no camouflages available for Golden Eagles, but there are 2 camouflages available in the Guardian Marketplace. So is it worth the long ride to unlock the Mi-28N? Well, stick around for the rest of the video to find out. Having a lineage of the Mi-24, as well as the Mi-8, we can't expect the Mi-28 to be the best performing helicopter in game, or in real life. Compared to the Kamov Ka-50 and Ka-52, the climb rate of the Mi-28 isn't the best, but this is expected due to the Ka-52 and Ka-50 having a tandem rotor design. Where this helicopter compares favourably to the Kamovs is in its manoeuvrability and top speed. The Mi-28 has a top speed of 324 km per hour at an altitude of 1,000 meters, with a max ceiling altitude of 5,400 meters. The Kamovs are slightly slower, at around 310 km per hour. It isn't too much of a difference, but the main benefit of the Mi-28 in my opinion is the improved mobility of the Mi-28. The Kamovs are fast, yes, everybody knows this, but they're an absolute bastard to control, especially in the Modern War Thunder battles where you want to stay low and fast. The Kamovs lacking a tail rotor makes it pretty hard to yaw the aircraft. This is probably the area of the biggest improvement on the Mi-28. While you aren't as agile as a lighter helicopter such as the Apache, you are still incredibly manoeuvrable. and can easily duck in and out of cover to avoid incoming missiles and planes. We then come on to the survivability, and we can see here that the Mi-28 has an armoured compartment around the cockpit. This is only 10mm thick and is made of aluminium, a notoriously soft metal, and it has an effective thickness of 11mm. This protection is worse compared to the Ka-52, which has around 20mm protection. We then also have bulletproof glass. This is 42mm thick, but is angled slightly backwards, which will give it slightly better effective thickness. While this armour will stop your pilots being pilot sniped by 50 cals and GPMGs against the large autocannons, as well as air defence systems at top tier, this armour will provide very little protection. Alright, moving on to the armament. And despite the real-life Mi-28 in its later versions getting an air-to-air radar mounted on top of the rotor, the Mi-28N that we have in game does not have any sort of radar features, although it does have a missile approach warning system, forward-looking infrared or thermal imaging, as well as a multitude of incredibly effective weaponry. We'll start with its primary weapon, the 30mm 2A42 cannon, mounted in a flexible turret below the nose of the helicopter. This gun has a fire rate of 546 rounds, and carries 250 rounds in total, giving you a time on target of just under 30 seconds. The turret has pretty good vertical guidance characteristics, with 40 degrees of gun depression and 13 degrees of gun elevation, and it can also rotate 110 degrees either side of the nose. The reason this cannon is so dominant is its ammunition. It fires the same ammunition as found on the BMP-2 at battle rating 8.3, mainly the APDS belt, or armour piercing discarding sabot. This ammunition is solid shot, and it has a very high muzzle velocity, giving it over 79mm of penetration at a range of 500 meters. And it still performs very well, even against angled armour. If you can get the top, side or rear of a main battle tank, you can easily cleave through it with this ammunition. We also have another type of weaponry, in the form of gun pods. These are the 23mm GSH-23L cannons, a single gun with 2 barrels. You can carry a gun pod on either wing, with each gun pod carrying 500 rounds of ammunition. These 23mm guns do pack a heavy punch, but have a very low muzzle velocity, making them rather hard to aim, at least against other flying vehicles, although they are very powerful against ground targets, such as AAA and lightly armoured player vehicles. We then come on to the rockets, and our simplest rockets are the S-8KO rockets. These have a maximum speed of 650 meters per second, and can penetrate 420mm of armour. This is due to the high explosive anti-tank warhead, which contains 1.69 kilograms of TNT. This gives it pretty good penetration, but rather modest post-penetration damage. The same cannot be said about the S-130F rockets. These travel slower at 530 meters per second, but contain a whopping 10.63 kilograms of TNT, giving them 63mm of explosive penetration. While the penetration statistic is lower, landing one of these rockets pretty much anywhere near an enemy main battle tank is pretty much a guaranteed kill, especially with the overpressure feature which was recently introduced to War Thunder. We then come on to the air-to-ground missiles, which are the 9M120-1 attacker missiles. These are the same missiles that are found on the Mi-35. These travel at a maximum speed of 550 meters per second and are SACLOS guided. They have a high explosive anti-tank warhead, giving them 800mm of penetration, and a TNT warhead of 4.48 kilograms, giving them pretty good post-penetration damage. These missiles are fairly easy to aim, but are pretty much dedicated air-to-ground missiles. The Kamov Ka-50 and Ka-52, their Vikier missiles are air-to-ground and air-to-air missiles. But hey, you can't have everything. The attacker missiles are slower and penetrate less than the Vikier missiles, but are still very potent air-to-ground weaponry. We then come on to the air-to-air weaponry, and these are the 9M39 Eagle air-to-air missiles. Like the American Stingers, these are man-pads, or man-portable air defense systems. Intended to be fired by individual men, these weapons have been modified for use on helicopters. They are infrared guided missiles and have an all-aspect lock seeker head. They can lock an enemy from the rear at a distance of 6 km and an all-aspect lock range of 4 km. They have a pretty low maximum overload of only 10 Gs, and a pretty poor TNT equivalent warhead of 530 grams. Like with all other manpads in the game, they are most effective when fired at pretty long range, as at close range, due to their low maximum overload, they simply cannot track targets, so you should be trying to fire these missiles at least 4 km away. And that wraps up our weaponry. For me personally, I'd use the 16 attacker missiles and the 40 S-8KO rockets, or the 40 rockets, 8 attackers, and 4 Igla missiles. Before we get into the conclusion, let me know down below what you guys think about the MI-28 and which helicopter, plane, tank or ship you guys would like to see reviewed next. In my opinion, I think that the Mi-28N is by far a cooler aircraft than the Kamov Ka-50 and Ka-52, but there's no denying that the Ka-52 is by far a better aircraft. While the Mi-28 is faster and more nimble, the Ka-52 just has better sensors, armour and weaponry. The Ka-52 can carry everything that the Mi-28 carries, and it can carry the Viking missiles on top of this. It has the same gun, rockets and air-to-air missiles. It also has radar, unlike the Mi-28. As I said, I do think that the Mi-28 is cooler. I prefer to fly it, but I can't deny that it is a worse aircraft. If you do just want a top tier helicopter which will get you kills, then the Ka-52 series is by far the better choice to grind out. It does literally everything the Mi-28 does, and it does it better, with the exception of mobility. Alright lads, I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please do consider subscribing to the channel. You can also leave a like and a comment, which again, also boosts me in the algorithm, helping my channel to grow. You can also follow me on Twitter, as well as Twitch, and if you're a huge fan of the channel, you can become a member of the YouTube channel, which will give you a unique icon next to your comment, in both comments under videos and on YouTube live streams. Once again, thank you very much for watching this far into the video lads, and I'll see you in the next one.